The double doors to St. Aldridge Medical Center burst open like a breach. 6 soldiers in full tactical gear stepped through, boots hammering the polished floor, rifles slung low, radios crackling static. The lobby went dead quiet. Visitors froze mid-sentence. A receptionist's coffee cup hung in the air. And in the middle of the chaos stood Emily Harper, a 32-year-old nurse with tired eyes and scrubs 2 sizes too big, watching it all unfold like she'd seen it before. "Where's Nurse Emily Harper?" the lead soldier barked, scanning the crowd. A doctor pointed. Emily didn't move. The soldier's expression shifted, sharp, controlled, something close to relief. "Ma'am," he said, voice clipped. "We need you. Now." The same woman they'd laughed at an hour ago. The same woman they'd just fired. Everyone stared. Emily took a slow breath and stepped forward. If you want to see how a woman dismissed as just a nurse brought an entire hospital to its knees, stay with me until the end. Like this video, drop a comment with the city you're watching from, and let me know how far this story travels. Because what happens next? No one in that building saw it coming. Emily Harper had been invisible for 6 months. Not literally, though sometimes it felt that way. She showed up early, left late, kept her head down, spoke only when spoken to. The kind of nurse people forgot was in the room until they needed something refilled or cleaned up. At St. Aldridge Medical Center, that was exactly how they liked her. "Harper, grab me a suture kit," Dr. Alan Voss called from across the trauma bay, not bothering to look up. Emily was already holding one. She stepped forward, set it on the tray beside him, and turned back to her station without a word. Voss didn't thank her. He never did. Neither did the surgeon beside him, Dr. Philip Crane, chief of surgery, a man who carried his reputation like a shield and his ego like a weapon. "You know," Crane said, loud enough for the room to hear, "I've worked with field medics who had more initiative than some of our staff." He glanced at Emily. She kept her eyes on the monitor. Crane smirked, "But I guess not everyone's cut out for high-pressure work." A few nurses exchanged looks. One of them, Jessica, blonde, sharp-tongued, always in Crane's good graces, snorted softly. Emily said nothing. She'd learned that silence was safer, easier, less complicated. It hadn't always been that way. Samint. 3 years ago, Emily Harper had been someone else entirely. A different name, a different uniform, a different life. She'd stood in a field hospital outside Kandahar with blood on her hands and a patient's heartbeat fading under her fingertips. She'd made calls that no one should have to make. She'd saved lives. She'd lost some too. And when she came home, she'd left all of it behind. Or tried to. The problem was, you don't just shake off that kind of training. It stays in your muscle memory, in the way you assess a room, in the way you hear a code blue and your body moves before your brain catches up. But at St. Aldridge, none of that mattered. Here, she was just Emily. Quiet Emily. Competent enough. Forgettable. And that was fine. Until it wasn't. The day started normal. Morning rounds, medication checks, a post-op patient in 4C who kept trying to pull his IV out. Emily repositioned the line, taped it down again, and made a note for the next shift. Routine. Then the ER lit up. "Mass casualty event. Multi-vehicle pileup on Route 9, the charge nurse shouted. "All hands, now!" Emily moved fast, grabbed a trauma kit, pulled on gloves, tied her hair back. She was halfway to the bay when Crane stepped in front of her. "Not you," he said flatly. Emily blinked. "Sir?" "We've got enough bodies. Go help with intake." "I'm trauma certified." "I said intake, Harper." He didn't wait for a response. Just turned and walked into the controlled chaos of the ER, barking orders at the residents trailing behind him. Emily stood there, kit in hand, while the rest of the team rushed past her. Jessica shot her a pitying look. "Don't take it personal. He just doesn't trust everyone in the hot zone." Emily didn't respond. She set the kit down, turned, and walked to the intake desk. Invisible. By the time the last patient from the pileup was stabilized, it was past midnight. Emily's shift had ended 2 hours ago, but she stayed. Logged charts, restocked supplies, helped a family navigate the labyrinth of insurance forms. When she finally stepped outside, the parking lot was nearly empty. The air was cold, sharp, biting at her cheeks. She pulled her jacket tighter and headed for her car, a decade-old sedan with a dent in the passenger door and a check engine light that had been on since July. She was halfway across the lot when her phone buzzed. A text from her sister. "You still awake?" Emily typed back, "Barely. What's up?" 3 dots. Then, "Just checking in. You okay?" Emily stared at the screen. Her sister, younger by 4 years, married, 2 kids, living the kind of life Emily used to think she'd have, always asked that question. And Emily always gave the same answer. "I'm fine." She hit send, climbed into her car, and sat there for a long moment before turning the key. Fine. She'd been fine for 3 years. The next day, everything changed. It started in OR3, a routine gallbladder removal, straightforward, low risk, the kind of procedure a second-year resident could handle in their sleep. Dr. Voss was lead. Crane was supervising. Emily was circulating, prepping instruments, monitoring vitals, keeping the room running. "Harper, hand me the retractor," Voss said. Emily passed it over. "Not that one, the curved one." She swapped it out. Voss sighed. "Do I need to walk you through the tray?" "No, sir." "Then pay attention." Emily bit the inside of her cheek and stepped back. The surgery continued. 15 minutes in, the patient's BP started to drop. "Pressure's falling," the anesthesiologist called out. 80 over 50. Voss frowned. "Must be the anesthesia. Lighten the dose." "Already did." "Then check the IV." Emily was already checking it. "Line's patent. No leaks." "Then find the problem, Harper." She scanned the monitors. Heart rate climbing. Oxygen saturation dipping. Something was wrong. Something they weren't seeing. "Dr. Voss," Emily said carefully, "I think we should—" "I didn't ask for your diagnosis. But the—" "Harper, step back." She did. And then the patient crashed. Alarm screamed. The flatline tone cut through the room like a blade. Voss swore, slamming his hands on the table. "Charge the paddles!" Crane barked, shoving into the space. Emily moved on instinct, grabbed the defibrillator, prepped the pads, handed them over. Crane shocked once, twice. The third time, the rhythm stuttered back. "Stabilize him," Crane snapped. "And someone figure out what the hell just happened." Everyone looked at the monitors, at the IV, at each other. And then Crane turned to Emily. "You said the line was good." Emily's stomach dropped. It was. Clearly it wasn't. "I checked it twice. And yet the patient nearly died." Voss was already shaking his head. "She must have missed something. A kink, an air bubble. I didn't—" "Enough!" Crane's voice was ice. "We'll review the footage, but if I find out you cut corners, Harper, you're done." Emily opened her mouth, closed it. She looked around the room. No one met her eyes. Wow. The review took 6 hours. Emily sat in a windowless conference room while Crane, Voss, and the hospital's risk management team watched the surgery footage on loop. She wasn't allowed to speak unless directly asked a question. She wasn't allowed to see the screen. She just sat there, waiting. Finally, the door opened. Crane stepped out first, face hard. Voss followed, arms crossed. "Harper," Crane said, "you're suspended pending further investigation." Emily stood slowly. "What did the footage show?" "That's not your concern right now. I have a right to know. What you have," Crane cut in, "is a pattern of inattention that nearly killed a patient. We're not taking that lightly." "Pattern?" Emily's voice cracked. "I've never had a single complaint until now." He handed her a folder. "HR will be in touch. Don't come back until they clear you." Emily took the folder. Her hands were shaking. Voss wouldn't look at her. The risk manager just nodded, professional and blank. She walked out of the room, down the hall, past the nurses' station where Jessica and 2 others stopped talking the second they saw her. Emily didn't stop. She walked straight to the exit, pushed through the doors, and kept walking until the hospital disappeared behind her. She didn't go home. She drove. No destination. Just turned onto the highway and let the road pull her forward. Her phone buzzed twice. Her sister probably, but she didn't check it. All she could think about was the look on Crane's face, the certainty in his voice. Pattern of inattention. Emily had worked in triage units where she'd handled 3 patients at once with half the equipment and none of the backup. She'd sutured wounds under mortar fire. She'd kept a 19-year-old kid alive for 40 minutes with a punctured lung and a prayer, and now she was being accused of missing an IV line. She pulled over at a rest stop, parked under a flickering streetlight, and sat there in the silence. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she looked. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then something made her answer. Hello? Emily Harper. Male voice, clipped, formal. Who's asking? This is Captain Reed Calloway, United States Army Medical Command. We've been trying to reach you. Emily's breath stopped. Why? We have a situation, and we need someone with your skill set, immediately. I'm not active duty anymore. We know, but your clearance is still valid. And frankly, Ms. Harper, you're the only person within 100 miles who's qualified for what we're dealing with. Emily closed her eyes. I can't. I'm suspended. We know. We also know it's bullshit. She opened her eyes. How? We've been monitoring St. Aldridge for the past 72 hours. There's a patient en route to your facility right now. High-value target. Severe trauma. Needs immediate surgical intervention. And if the wrong people find out he's there, that hospital becomes a war zone. Emily's pulse kicked up. What kind of trauma? The kind you've seen before. The kind most civilian doctors wouldn't recognize. Silence. Ms. Harper, we don't have time. Are you in or not? She sat there, phone pressed to her ear, staring at the empty highway ahead. Everything in her said to hang up, to walk away, to stay invisible. But she'd never been good at that. I'm in, she said. Good. We're pulling up to St. Aldridge in 10 minutes. Meet us there. The line went dead. Emily stared at the phone. Then she started the car, pulled back onto the highway, and drove straight toward the place that had just tried to erase her. When she arrived, the hospital looked normal, too normal. But as she pulled into the lot, she saw them, 3 black SUVs parked near the ambulance bay, engines running, windows tinted. No markings, no lights. Emily parked, got out, and walked toward the entrance. A man in plain clothes stepped into her path. Emily Harper? That's me. He nodded once, spoke into his wrist, and stepped aside. The doors opened, and that's when the soldiers came in. 6 of them. Full tactical gear, moving in formation. People in the lobby scrambled out of the way, gasping, pulling out phones. Where is Nurse Emily Harper, the lead soldier, Captain Calloway, she assumed, called out. Emily stepped forward. I'm here. Calloway's expression shifted. Relief. Respect. Ma'am, he said, we need you in OR2, now. Emily glanced toward the staff behind the desk, eyes wide, mouths open, and then she saw Crane, standing in the hallway, staring at her. What the hell is this? He demanded, striding forward. Calloway didn't even look at him. Military operation, step aside. This is my hospital, and this is a federal matter, step aside. Crane's face went red, but he didn't move. Emily met his eyes, held them. Then she turned to Calloway. Let's go. They moved fast, down the hall, past stunned nurses and frozen residents, straight into OR2. And on the table, bleeding out under the lights, was a man Emily recognized instantly. Not his face, his wounds, shrapnel pattern, blast radius burns, entry wound from a high-caliber round that had missed the femoral artery by millimeters. This wasn't a car accident. This was combat. Emily stepped up to the table, pulled on gloves, and looked at Calloway. Who is he? Need to know. I need to know if I'm going to save him. Calloway hesitated, then, he's a contractor, was embedded with a unit overseas, got hit during an extraction. We barely got him out. Emily nodded, scanned the wounds. Her mind shifted. Automatic, clean, the old training kicking in like she'd never left. I need a trauma team, she said. You've got us. I need a surgeon. You are the surgeon. Emily looked up. I'm a nurse. Calloway met her eyes. You were a combat medic. You've done this 100 times, and right now, you're all he's got. Emily stared at the man on the table, at the blood pooling under the drapes, at the monitors starting to scream. She could walk away, let someone else handle it, stay invisible, or she could do what she'd always done, save him. Emily took a breath. Clamp, she said. A soldier handed it to her, and Emily Harper, just a nurse, went to work. Outside, Crane stood in the hallway watching through the glass, and for the first time in 6 months, he had no idea who he was looking at. The first thing Emily did was silence the alarms, not by fixing the problem, by muting the noise so she could think. The patient's vitals were in free fall, oxygen saturation dropping, blood pressure barely registering. She had maybe 3 minutes before the damage became irreversible. "I need 2 units of O negative now," she said, eyes locked on the wound. "And get me a vascular clamp, the curved one, not the straight." One of the soldiers moved instantly, no questions. Another pulled supplies from the crash cart like he'd done this before. They weren't trained surgeons, but they knew how to follow orders under fire. That was enough. Emily's hands moved fast, cutting away shredded fabric, exposing the entry wound near the patient's upper thigh. The shrapnel had torn through muscle and nicked the femoral vein. Not a full rupture, but close. Blood was pooling faster than his body could replace it. She grabbed the clamp, slid it into place, and locked it down. The bleeding slowed. "Pressure's stabilizing," one of the soldiers called out, eyes on the monitor. Emily didn't respond. She was already moving to the next wound, a deep laceration across the abdomen, likely from debris. No internal bleeding visible, but she couldn't be sure without imaging. "Captain," she said, not looking up. "Does he have a history? Allergies, prior surgeries?" Calloway stepped closer. "Classified." Emily's jaw tightened. "If he codes because I didn't know he was allergic to something, that's on you." A pause. Then, "No known allergies, no prior surgeries. He's clean." "Good." She packed the abdominal wound with gauze, applied pressure, and motioned to the soldier on her right. "Hold this. Firm, not hard. If the bleeding picks up, tell me immediately." He nodded, hands steady. Emily stepped back, pulled off her gloves, and grabbed a fresh pair. Her mind was running 3 steps ahead. What to stabilize first? What could wait? What would kill him if she missed it? This wasn't medicine. It was triage, battlefield math, and she'd always been good at it. She glanced at the monitors, heart rate climbing but steady. BP holding at 90/60. Not great, but survivable. For now. "We need imaging," she said. "CT scan, full body. I need to know if there's internal bleeding I'm not seeing." Calloway shook his head. "No time. We've got maybe 20 minutes before we have to move him." Emily turned to face him. "Move him where?" "Secure facility, undisclosed location." "He's not stable enough to move." "Then make him stable." Emily stared at him. "You want me to patch him up enough to survive a transport, not actually save him? I want you to do whatever it takes to keep him alive long enough to get him out of here." "That's not how this works." "That's exactly how this works." Calloway's voice dropped, hard and flat. "We've got hostile eyes on this hospital. If they figure out he's here, they'll come for him, and they won't care who's in the way." Emily's stomach twisted. "Hostile eyes? You mean..." "I mean people who want him dead. And if we don't move fast, they'll get their chance." Silence. Emily looked back at the man on the table. Unconscious. Bleeding. Somebody's target. She took a breath. "Fine. But I need 15 minutes. Minimum." "You've got 10. Emily didn't argue. She just went back to work. Behind her, through the glass window of the OR, Crane was still standing in the hallway. Watching. His face was unreadable, but his hands were clenched at his sides. Jessica stood beside him, arms crossed. "What the hell is going on?" Crane didn't answer, because he didn't know. And that terrified him. Emily worked in silence, hands moving with the kind of precision that only came from repetition. Suture, clamp, check, repeat. The soldiers around her stayed quiet, following her lead, trusting her calls. It was the kind of respect she hadn't felt in months, maybe years. "Vitals are holding," one of them said. "Good. Keep monitoring." She finished the last suture on the abdominal wound, checked the clamp on the femoral vein one more time, and stepped back. The patient was stable, barely, but stable enough. "He's good to move," she said. Calloway nodded. "We'll handle transport. You're coming with us." Emily blinked. "What?" "You heard me. We need you on site until he's out of critical." "I can't just leave. You're suspended, remember? You don't work here anymore." The words hit harder than they should have. Emily looked around the OR, at the soldiers, at the equipment, at the man she'd just saved. Then she looked through the glass at Crane, still watching, still silent. She pulled off her gloves. "Let's go." They moved fast. 2 soldiers lifted the patient onto a gurney, IV line still attached, monitors strapped to the rails. Calloway led the way, moving through the hospital like he owned it. Emily followed, heart pounding, adrenaline still buzzing in her veins. People stared as they passed. Nurses froze mid-step. A resident dropped his clipboard. And Crane just stood there, mouth half open, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Emily didn't look back. They burst through the ambulance bay doors into the cold night air. One of the black SUVs was already waiting, back doors open, engine running. The soldiers loaded the patient in smooth, practiced motions. Emily climbed in after him, checking the monitors one more time. Still stable. Calloway slid into the front seat. "Move." The driver hit the gas, and St. Aldridge Medical Center disappeared behind them. Emily sat in the back of the SUV, one hand on the patient's wrist, fingers pressed to his pulse. It was weak but steady. The vehicle moved fast, weaving through traffic. No lights, no sirens, just speed and silence. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Secure location," Calloway said again. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." Emily bit back a response. She was too tired to argue, too wired to think straight. All she could do was focus on the man in front of her and make sure he didn't die in the next 10 minutes. The SUV turned onto a side road, then another, until they were deep in an industrial district Emily didn't recognize. Warehouses, empty lots, no streetlights. Finally, they pulled into an underground parking structure. The driver stopped in front of a steel door marked with nothing but a keypad. Calloway got out, punched in a code, and the door slid open. "Bring him," he said. The soldiers moved fast again, pulling the gurney out, rolling it through the door and down a long concrete corridor. Emily followed, her footsteps echoing in the narrow space. At the end of the hall was another door, another keypad, another code. And then they were inside. It looked like a field hospital. Not a civilian one, a military one. Compact, efficient. Everything bolted down or strapped in place. 2 medics were already waiting, gloved and ready. "Transfer him to bed 3, one of them said. The soldiers moved the patient over. Emily stayed close, rattling off vitals, wound status, everything she'd done in the OR. The medics listened, nodded, didn't ask questions. Professionals. When the handoff was complete, Emily stepped back, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was. Her hands were shaking. Her scrubs were soaked in blood. Calloway appeared beside her. "You did good." Emily didn't respond. "I mean it," he said. "Most people would have folded." "I'm not most people." "Yeah, we know." Emily turned to look at him. "How much do you know?" Calloway's expression didn't change. "Enough. Enough to pull my file. Enough to know I was deployed. Enough to know I got out and didn't look back. Enough to know you're wasted in a place like St. Aldridge." Emily laughed, sharp and bitter. "Tell that to the guy who just suspended me." "We did." She froze. "What?" Calloway pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and handed it to her. On the screen was an email, sent 2 hours ago. Recipient, St. Aldridge Medical Center, Risk Management Department. Subject, Emily Harper. Personnel review. Emily scanned the message. It was short, professional, and devastating. It detailed the surgery from earlier that day, the patient who'd crashed, the IV line Crane had blamed her for, but it also included footage, not from the OR, from the hallway outside, a timestamp, a figure in scrubs, and Dr. Alan Voss leaning over a medical cart, hand hovering near an IV bag. Emily's blood went cold. "He tampered with it," she whispered. "Looks that way. Why?" Calloway shrugged. "That's not my department. But if I had to guess, politics. Someone wanted you gone, and Voss was stupid enough to help." Emily stared at the screen, hands trembling. "Does the hospital know?" "They do now. We sent the footage to their legal team an hour ago, along with a very pointed suggestion that they review their internal processes before we do it for them." Emily handed the phone back. "And Voss? Probably shitting himself right about now." She almost smiled. Almost. But the exhaustion hit her all at once, and she sank into a chair against the wall, head in her hands. Calloway crouched down beside her. "Hey, you all right?" "I don't know." "Fair." They sat in silence for a moment, then Calloway stood. "Get some rest. We'll need you again in a few hours." "For what?" "Debrief. And possibly another patient." Emily looked up. "Another one?" "This isn't a one-time thing, Harper. We've got assets in the field. Sometimes they come back broken. And when they do, we need people who know how to put them back together." "I'm not active duty anymore." "No. But you're still one of us." He turned to leave, then paused. "Think about it." And then he was gone. Emily sat there alone in a room full of people who didn't know her name but trusted her with their lives. It was the most seen she'd felt in years. Across town, back at St. Aldridge, Crane was in his office. The door was closed, the lights were off, and his phone wouldn't stop ringing. He ignored it. On his desk was a printed copy of the email Calloway had sent, the footage, the timestamps, the evidence, and beneath it, a disciplinary notice from the hospital's board of directors. Effective immediately, Dr. Philip Crane was under investigation for negligence, misconduct, and conspiracy to terminate an employee under false pretenses. He'd spent 20 years building his reputation, and it had just collapsed in under 2 hours. There was a knock at the door. "Go away," Crane said. The door opened anyway. Dr. Alan Voss stepped in, face pale, hands shaking. "They know. I know they know. What do we do?" Crane looked up, eyes hollow. "We? There is no we. You did this. You told me to. I told you to handle it. I didn't tell you to sabotage an IV line and nearly kill a patient." Voss's mouth opened, closed. "You said, 'I don't care what I said. You're the one on camera.'" Voss stared at him, realization dawning. "You're throwing me under the bus." Crane didn't answer. Voss stepped back, shaking his head. "You bastard! Get out of my office. They're going to arrest me." "Then you should have thought of that before you got sloppy." Voss turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Crane sat in the darkness, alone, and for the first time in his career, he had no idea how to fix this. Emily woke up 3 hours later to the sound of voices. She blinked, disoriented, and realized she'd fallen asleep in the chair. Her neck ached, her mouth tasted like copper. One of the medics was standing nearby, talking to Calloway in low tones. "She's awake," the medic said. Calloway walked over. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck?" "Close enough." He handed her a bottle of water. "Drink." She did. The cold hit her throat, sharp and clean. "Patient stable," Calloway said. "You did good." "You said that already." "Still true." Emily set the bottle down. "What happens now?" "Now, you go home, get some real sleep, and tomorrow you decide if you want to do this again." "Do what again?" "Work with us, contract basis. We've got field hospitals, evac units, triage centers. All of them need people who can think under pressure. People like you." Emily stared at him. "I'm a civilian. So are half our contractors. Doesn't make you less qualified. I walked away from this. And now it's walking back to you." Emily didn't respond. She just looked at the patient on the bed, still unconscious, still breathing, still alive because of her. "Think about it," Calloway said. "No pressure, but the offer's real." He turned to leave. "Calloway." He stopped. "Why me?" He looked back, expression unreadable. "Because when we pulled your file, we didn't just see a medic. We saw someone who saved 11 people in a firefight with a collapsed lung and a broken rib. Someone who kept a unit alive for 16 hours with no resupply and no backup. Someone who didn't quit when everyone else did." Emily's throat tightened. "You're not invisible, Harper," Calloway said quietly. "You never were. The people around you just didn't know how to look." And then he walked out. Emily sat there, staring at the empty doorway, his words echoing in her head. She'd spent 3 years trying to disappear, trying to be small, trying to forget. But maybe some things didn't want to be forgotten. An hour later, Emily was back in her car, driving through the empty streets toward her apartment. The city was quiet. The sky was starting to lighten in the east. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then she answered. Hello? A woman's voice. Cold, calm, unfamiliar. Emily Harper? Who is this? Someone who knows what you did tonight. Emily's grip tightened on the wheel. What are you talking about? The man you saved. He wasn't supposed to survive. Emily's blood went cold. Who the hell are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you just made yourself a problem, and problems get solved. The line went dead. Emily stared at the phone, heart pounding, hands shaking. And then she saw it. In her rearview mirror, a black sedan, no plates, no lights. Following her. Emily's first instinct was to floor it. Her second was to stay calm. She did neither. Instead, she kept her speed steady, hands locked on the wheel, eyes flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. The black sedan stayed 3 car lengths back. No closer, no farther. Professional distance. Whoever they were, they wanted her to know they were there. Emily's mind raced. She was 15 minutes from her apartment, residential area, quiet streets, no witnesses. If they wanted to corner her, that's where they'd do it. She couldn't go home. She pulled out her phone, thumb hovering over Calloway's number. Then she stopped. If she called him, she'd be admitting she couldn't handle this, that she needed help, that she was still the same person who'd run from everything 3 years ago. Emily put the phone down. She took the next left. The sedan followed. 2 blocks later, she turned right. The sedan stayed with her. Emily's pulse kicked up. She scanned the streets, looking for cameras, for people, for anything she could use. A gas station appeared ahead, lights blazing, 2 cars at the pumps. She pulled in fast, parked under the awning, and got out. The sedan slowed. Stopped at the edge of the lot, didn't pull in. Emily walked into this gas station, keeping her movements casual. Inside, a bored clerk stood behind bulletproof glass, scrolling on his phone. She grabbed a bottle of water she didn't want and brought it to the counter. Pump 3, she said, sliding a 20 through the slot. The clerk barely looked up. Sure. Emily glanced out the window. The sedan was still there, engine running, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. She paid, pocketed the change, and walked back to her car. Unscrewed the gas cap, lifted the nozzle, started pumping, and waited. The sedan didn't move. Emily finished pumping, replaced the nozzle, and climbed back into her car. She sat there for a long moment, hands on the wheel, staring at the sedan in her mirror. Then she started the engine and pulled out. The sedan followed. Emily's jaw tightened. Fine. If they wanted to play this game, she'd play it. She took the next turn fast, cutting across 2 lanes. The sedan matched her. She ran a yellow light. The sedan ran the red. She merged onto the highway, weaving through sparse late-night traffic. The sedan stayed glued to her bumper. Emily's mind shifted into a different gear, the one she'd learned overseas, the one that didn't think, just reacted. She needed to lose them, or figure out who they were, or both. She took the next exit, looped under the overpass, and doubled back. The sedan followed, closer now. Aggressive. Emily's breath came faster. She was running out of road, out of options. And then she saw it. A hospital sign. Not St. Aldridge. Mercy General. Smaller. Public. Busy even at this hour. She cut across 3 lanes and pulled into the ambulance bay, tires screeching. Slammed the car into park and jumped out, running straight for the ER entrance. Behind her, the sedan pulled up to the curb. Stopped. Emily didn't look back. She shoved through the automatic doors and walked straight to the triage desk, heart pounding, trying to look like she belonged. "Can I help you?" the nurse asked. "I'm looking for a friend," Emily said, forcing her voice steady. "Came in earlier. Car accident." The nurse frowned. "Name? I don't know which name they used. Can I just check the waiting area?" The nurse sighed. "Go ahead." Emily nodded and walked deeper into the ER, past the waiting room, past the curtained bays, until she found a staff hallway. She ducked inside, pressed her back against the wall, and pulled out her phone. This time she called Calloway. He picked up on the second ring. "Harper? I'm being followed." A pause. "Where are you?" "Mercy General, ER entrance. Black sedan, no plates. They've been on me since I left your facility." "Stay inside. I'm sending a team." "How long?" 10 minutes. Emily closed her eyes. "Calloway, who the hell are these people?" I don't know, but if they're moving on you this fast, it means someone leaked your involvement. Stay in a public area. Don't go outside. And Harper, what? If they approach you, don't engage. Just run. The line went dead. Emily shoved the phone into her pocket and moved back toward the ER. She found a chair near the nurse's station, sat down, and kept her eyes on the entrance. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. No sign of the sedan. No sign of Calloway's team. Emily's leg bounced. Her fingers drummed against her thigh. Every time the doors opened, her pulse spiked. And then a man walked in, tall, mid-40s, suit and tie. He didn't look injured, didn't look like he belonged. He scanned the room. His eyes landed on Emily, and he smiled. Emily's stomach dropped. The man walked toward her, slow and deliberate. Emily stood, ready to move, ready to run. "Emily Harper?" he said, voice smooth. "Who's asking?" "Someone who wants to talk." "I'm not interested." "You should be." He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. Casual. Unthreatening. "The man you saved tonight? He has information people would kill for, and now, by association, so do you." Emily's throat tightened. "I don't know anything." "You know enough." He tilted his head. "You know his face, his injuries, his condition. That makes you a liability." "To who?" The man's smile widened. "To everyone." Emily took a step back. I'm not going anywhere with you." "I'm not asking you to." He pulled a card from his pocket and held it out. "But when you realize you're in over your head, call me. I can help." Emily didn't take the card. "I already have help." "You mean Captain Calloway? Good man, but he can't protect you from what's coming." "And you can?" "I can make you disappear. New identity, new life. Clean break." Emily stared at him. "Why would I trust you?" "You shouldn't." He set the card on the chair beside her. "But you will. Because in about 48 hours, you're going to realize that the people hunting you don't care about rules, or witnesses, or collateral damage." He turned and walked toward the exit. "Wait," Emily called. He stopped, looked back. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "Someone who used to be in your position, and I chose wrong." And then he was gone. Emily stood there, staring at the empty doorway, heart pounding. She picked up the card. No name, just a phone number. She shoved it into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Calloway answered immediately. "Where are you?" "Still at Mercy. A man just approached me. Suit, no name, said I'm a liability." "Did he threaten you?" "No, he offered to help." Calloway swore under his breath. "What did he look like?" Emily described him. There was a long silence on the other end. "Calloway? That's Marcus Hale, ex-CIA, runs a private security firm now, very off the books." "Is he dangerous?" "Depends on who's paying him." Emily's stomach twisted. "What do I do?" "My team's 2 minutes out. Stay where you are. And Harper, don't call that number. Whatever Hale's selling, it's not help." The line went dead. Emily sat back down, legs shaking. Around her, the ER continued like nothing had happened. A kid with a broken arm, an elderly woman coughing into a tissue. Normal. Routine. And Emily, sitting in the middle of it, waiting for soldiers to extract her like she was back overseas. She almost laughed. 2 minutes later, Calloway walked through the doors with 3 men in plain clothes. He spotted Emily immediately and walked over. "You good?" he asked. "Define good." Calloway crouched down beside her. "Hale's a fixer. Someone hired him to either recruit you or neutralize you. And if he approached you in public, it means they're escalating." "Who's they?" "We're working on that. But right now you're not safe. Not at your apartment. Not at your car. Nowhere they can track you." Emily stared at him. "So what, I just disappear?" "For now, yeah." "For how long?" "Until we figure out who's pulling the strings." Emily stood, shaking her head. "This is insane. I saved a guy's life. That's it. I didn't sign up for us." "You saved the wrong guy's life," Calloway said quietly. "And now people want to know why he's still breathing." Emily's hands clenched. "Then maybe you should have let him die." Calloway met her eyes. "Would you have?" Silence. Emily looked away. "No." "Then let's keep you alive long enough to not regret it." He motioned to the men behind him. These are Agents Ford, Grant, and Espinoza. They'll get you somewhere secure. I'll be in touch. Where are you going? To find out who the hell leaked your name. Calloway turned and walked out. Emily stood there, surrounded by three strangers, feeling the walls close in. Agent Ford, broad-shouldered, buzz-cut, no nonsense, stepped forward. We need to move. Now. Emily grabbed her jacket. Where are we going? Safe house, 40 minutes outside the city. What about my car? We'll handle it. Emily followed them out through a side exit. A black SUV was waiting, engine running. She climbed into the back. Ford took the driver's seat. Grant rode shotgun. Espinoza sat beside Emily, silent and watchful. The SUV pulled out, merging into traffic. Emily stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past. She'd lived here for 3 years, built a quiet life, stayed invisible, and now she was running again. The drive took longer than 40 minutes. They doubled back twice, took side roads Emily didn't recognize, and passed through 2 checkpoints she didn't know existed. By the time they pulled up to the safe house, dawn was starting to break over the horizon. The property sat alone on a stretch of flat farmland, ranch-style, single-story, surrounded by fields and silence. No neighbors for miles, no cell towers visible, just isolation. Ford parked in the gravel driveway. Inside, we'll do a perimeter check. Emily climbed out, legs stiff from sitting. The air was cold, sharp with the smell of dirt and dew. She followed Espinoza to the front door while Ford and Grant circled the property, weapons drawn, scanning the tree line. Espinoza unlocked the door and stepped in first, hand near his sidearm. The interior was exactly what Emily expected. Basic furniture, blank walls, a kitchen that looked like it had never been used. Everything temporary, everything designed for people who weren't supposed to stay long. Clear, Espinoza called. Emily stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a heavy click. There's food in the pantry, Espinoza said. Water in the fridge, bathrooms down the hall. Don't go near the windows. Emily nodded, too tired to argue. Get some rest, Espinoza added. We'll be outside. He left, closing the door behind him. Emily stood in the middle of the empty living room, listening to the silence. It was the kind of quiet that pressed against your ears, thick and suffocating. She walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at rows of bottled water and prepackaged meals. She wasn't hungry. She closed the fridge and walked to the back bedroom. The bed was made with military precision, tight corners, flat surface. A single window overlooked the backyard, curtains drawn. Emily sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out her phone. 2 missed calls from her sister. A text. Are you okay? I saw something on the news about the hospital. Emily stared at the screen. She wanted to call back, to explain, to say she was fine, but she wasn't fine, and she didn't know how to explain any of this. She put the phone down and lay back, staring at the ceiling. Her body ached. Her mind wouldn't stop running. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the sedan, heard the woman's voice on the phone, saw Marcus Hale's smile. Sleep didn't come. Across town, in a glass-walled penthouse overlooking the city, a woman sat at a minimalist desk, reviewing files on a tablet. Victoria Langford, mid-50s, tailored suit that probably cost more than Emily's car, hair pulled back in a tight bun, eyes like cut glass. She scrolled through Emily Harper's file for the 3rd time. Deployment history, medals, discharge papers, current employment, suspended. Victoria set the tablet down and picked up her phone. Status, she said when the call connected. Harper's in protective custody, a voice replied. Male, clipped, professional. Safe house outside the city, 3 agents on site. And the asset? Still stable. Under military guard at the secondary facility. Victoria's jaw tightened. I want both of them neutralized, quietly. That's going to be difficult. They're locked down tight. Then make it less tight. A pause. Understood. Victoria ended the call and stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city sprawled below her, lights flickering in the pre-dawn darkness. She'd built an empire in this city. Contracts worth billions, connections in every branch of government, and all of it depended on one thing: control. Emily Harper was a variable she hadn't accounted for. A civilian with no stake in the game who'd stumbled into the middle of something she couldn't possibly understand. And variables needed to be eliminated. Victoria made another call. "I need a team," she said. "Full tactical, no witnesses." The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. "When?" "Tonight." Back at the safe house, Emily was still awake when the sun finally rose. She'd given up on sleep an hour ago and moved to the kitchen, making coffee she didn't want just to have something to do with her hands. She poured a cup and sat at the small table, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Emily's stomach dropped. She almost didn't answer. Then she did. "Hello?" Silence. Then breathing. "I know you're scared," a woman's voice said. Not the same one from before. This one was older, colder. "But you need to understand something. The man you saved? He's not a hero. He's a thief. And what he stole belongs to people who don't forgive mistakes." Emily's grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" "Someone who's giving you a chance. Walk away. Disappear. We'll make sure no one follows you." "And if I don't?" "Then you'll die with him." The line went dead. Emily sat there, phone in hand, coffee going cold in front of her. Outside, the sun climbed higher. Birds started singing. The world kept turning. And Emily realized she had no idea who to trust anymore. The day passed slowly. Ford and Grant took shifts watching the perimeter. Espinoza stayed inside, always within earshot, always armed. Emily tried to rest, tried to eat, tried to think. None of it worked. By the time night fell, she was pacing the living room, wearing a path in the carpet. Espinoza watched her from the kitchen doorway. "You should sit down." "I'm fine." "You're not." Emily stopped. "You think I don't know that?" Espinoza didn't respond. Emily ran a hand through her hair. "How long am I supposed to stay here?" "Until Calloway says otherwise." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." Emily sank onto the couch, head in her hands. "This is insane." "Yeah," Espinoza said quietly. "It usually is." Emily looked up. "You've done this before?" "Protected someone?" "Yeah, a few times." "Did it work?" Espinoza's expression didn't change. "Most of the time." Emily didn't ask what happened the other times. They sat in silence for a while. Then Espinoza's radio crackled. "Movement," Ford's voice said. "North tree line. Multiple contacts." Espinoza was on his feet instantly, weapon drawn. "How many?" "4, maybe 5. They're spreading out." Emily stood. "What's happening?" "Stay here," Espinoza said. "Like hell." "Stay. Here." He moved to the window, peering through a gap in the curtains. Emily's heart hammered in her chest. Outside, she heard it. Faint. Distant. Footsteps. Grant's voice came through the radio. "They're armed. Professional kit. This isn't random." Espinoza swore under his breath. He turned to Emily. "Back bedroom. Now." Emily didn't argue. She ran. She made it halfway down the hall when the first gunshot shattered the silence. Glass exploded. Wood splintered. Emily hit the floor, hands over her head. More gunfire. Rapid. Close. Espinoza appeared beside her, pulling her to her feet. "Window. Move." They ran to the bedroom. Espinoza shoved the window open and pushed Emily through. She landed hard in the dirt outside, pain shooting through her shoulder. Espinoza followed, pulling her up. "Run! Don't stop!" They ran. Behind them, the house erupted in noise, gunfire, shouting, breaking glass. Emily's lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she didn't stop. They reached the tree line. Espinoza pulled her down behind a fallen log, breathing hard. "Stay low," he whispered. Emily nodded, chest heaving. Footsteps approached. Flashlights swept the woods. Espinoza raised his weapon, aiming into the darkness. And then a voice cut through the night. "Harper, we know you're out here. Make this easy." Emily's blood turned to ice. She recognized that voice. Dr. Alan Voss. Espinoza glanced at her, confused. "You know him?" Emily's mouth went dry. "He's the one who tried to get me fired." "What the hell is he doing here?" "I don't know." Voss's voice came again, closer now. "Emily, listen to me. You don't understand what you've gotten yourself into. These people, the military, Calloway, they're using you. But I can get you out. We both can walk away from this." Espinoza's grip tightened on his weapon. "He's lying." "I know. Emily whispered. But part of her wasn't sure. Voss stepped into view, hands raised, no weapon visible. Emily, please, I didn't want any of this. They forced me. Said if I didn't help them, they'd destroy my career, my family. Emily stayed silent. I know you're angry, Voss continued. I know I hurt you, but right now we're on the same side. The people who sent me, they're not military. They're contractors, and they will kill you if you don't come with me. Espinoza aimed at Voss's chest. Don't move. Voss froze. His eyes found Emily in the darkness. Please, I'm trying to save your life. And then the gunfire started again. Not from Voss. From behind him. Figures emerged from the trees, armed, masked, moving fast. Espinoza returned fire, 3 quick shots. One of the figures dropped. Go! Espinoza shouted. Emily ran. She didn't know where. Just away. Into the woods, branches tearing at her clothes, roots catching her feet. Behind her, gunfire echoed through the trees. She ran until her lungs gave out, until her legs collapsed, until she couldn't hear anything but her own ragged breathing. And then she stopped. Silence. Emily pressed her back against a tree, trying to orient herself. She had no idea where she was. No idea where Espinoza was. No idea if Ford and Grant were even still alive. She pulled out her phone. No signal. She was alone. Emily closed her eyes, forcing herself to think. She'd been trained for this. Survival. Evasion. She just had to remember. A twig snapped. Emily's eyes flew open. A figure stood 10 feet away, silhouetted against the moonlight, weapon raised. Don't move, a voice said. Not Voss. Not Espinoza. Someone else. The figure stepped closer. The moonlight caught their face. And Emily's world tilted. It was Jessica. The nurse from St. Aldridge, the one who'd always been in Crane's good graces. Hello, Emily, Jessica said, voice flat. We need to talk. Emily stared at the weapon pointed at her chest, then at the face behind it. Jessica. Blonde hair pulled back, scrubs traded for tactical pants and a dark jacket. The same woman who'd pitied her in the hallway at St. Aldridge now held a gun like she'd been doing it for years. You look surprised, Jessica said. Emily's mind raced, calculating distances, exits, options, none of them good. What are you doing here? My job, which is? Jessica's expression didn't change. Making sure problems disappear. Emily's hands were still raised. Her phone was in her pocket. Espinoza was somewhere behind her in the woods, and Jessica's finger was on the trigger. I'm not a problem, Emily said. You became one the second you saved that contractor. I didn't know who he was. Doesn't matter. You know too much now. Emily took a slow breath, forcing her voice steady. Then why are we talking? If you're here to kill me, just do it. Jessica tilted her head. Because I don't want to. Could have fooled me. I'm serious. I liked you, Emily. You kept your head down. Didn't ask questions. Didn't make waves. Jessica lowered the weapon slightly. But then Calloway pulled you into this mess, and now you're stuck in the middle of something you can't walk away from. So let me walk. I can't. Why not? Jessica's jaw tightened. Because if I don't bring you in, someone else will, and they won't give you a choice. Emily's pulse hammered. Bring me in where? Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can debrief you. Figure out what you know. And then? Jessica didn't answer. Emily's stomach dropped. You mean kill me? I mean protect you. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Jessica raised the weapon again. You don't get it. The people hunting you, they're not military. They're private contractors working for someone with enough money to make governments look the other way. If you stay out here, you're dead by morning. If you come with me, you've got a chance. Emily's mind raced. Jessica was lying, had to be, but there was something in her voice, something that didn't sound entirely convinced. Who are they? Emily asked. I don't know. Bullshit. I don't. Jessica's voice cracked. I take orders. I follow them. That's it. Then who gives the orders? Jessica hesitated. Someone above my pay grade. Emily took a step forward. Jessica tensed but didn't fire. You don't want to do this, Emily said quietly. You don't know what I want. I know you're scared. Jessica's expression hardened. I'm not. You are. I can see it. Whatever they're holding over you, whatever they promised, it's not worth this. Jessica's finger twitched on the trigger. You don't know anything about me. I know you're not a killer. You'd be surprised. Emily held her gaze. Then prove it. Pull the trigger. Silence. The woods around them were completely still. No gunfire, no shouting, just the sound of Jessica's breathing and the faint rustle of leaves. Jessica's hand shook, and then a voice cut through the darkness. Step away from her. Both women turned. Espinoza stood 20 feet away, weapon raised, blood running down the side of his face. His jacket was torn, his breathing labored, but his aim was steady. Jessica swung her weapon toward him. Don't! Drop it, Espinoza said. I will shoot you. Not before I shoot you. Emily raised her hands. Wait. Stay out of this, Harper, Espinoza said, eyes locked on Jessica. Jessica's grip tightened. I'm taking her in. Orders. Whose orders? Doesn't matter. It does to me. Jessica's jaw clenched. I don't want to kill you. Then don't. For a moment, no one moved, and then Jessica lowered her weapon. You're making a mistake. Wouldn't be my first, Espinoza said. Jessica looked at Emily one last time. They'll come for you, and next time it won't be me. She turned and disappeared into the trees. Espinoza didn't lower his weapon until she was gone. Then he sagged against a tree, hand pressed to his head. Emily ran to him. You're hurt. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I said I'm fine. He pulled his hand away, wincing. Just a graze. Emily grabbed his arm, steadying him. Where are Ford and Grant? Espinoza's expression darkened. Grant's dead. Ford's pinned down at the house. We need to move. Where? Anywhere but here. They moved through the woods, slow and careful, Espinoza leaning on Emily more than he wanted to admit. His breathing was ragged, his steps unsteady. But he didn't stop. After what felt like hours, they reached a service road. A single vehicle sat in the darkness, a beat-up pickup truck, engine running. Ford stood beside it, weapon raised. When he saw them, he lowered it. About damn time. Espinoza collapsed against the truck. Status? 4 hostiles down, 2 retreated. Voss is gone. Emily's head snapped up. He got away? Wasn't my priority. Ford looked at her. You all right? Define all right. Ford almost smiled. Get in. We're leaving. They climbed into the truck. Ford drove. Espinoza sat in the passenger seat, pressing a torn piece of shirt against his head. Emily sat in the back, staring out the window, watching the darkness blur past. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere they won't expect, Ford said. That's not an answer. It's the best one you're getting. Emily leaned back, exhausted. Her hands were shaking. Her mind wouldn't stop running. Jessica's face, Voss's voice, the gunfire, all of it looping in her head. She closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come. They drove for 2 hours, sticking to back roads and avoiding main highways. By the time they stopped, the sun was starting to rise. The location was another safe house, this one in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by farmland and nothing else. Ford parked behind the building and killed the engine. Inside, he said. Emily climbed out, legs stiff. Espinoza moved slower, still bleeding. Ford unlocked the door and stepped in first, clearing the rooms. We're good. Emily walked inside. The place was even more bare bones than the last one. No furniture except a table and 2 chairs. No decorations, just walls and a roof. Espinoza sank into one of the chairs, head in his hands. Emily grabbed a first aid kit from the corner and brought it over. Let me see. Espinoza didn't argue. She cleaned the wound, deep but not fatal, and bandaged it as best she could. You need stitches, she said. I'll live. That's not the point. Espinoza looked up at her. You did good back there. Emily didn't respond. I mean it, he said. Most people would have frozen. I've had practice. Espinoza nodded slowly. Then his radio crackled. Espinoza, you there? Calloway's voice. Espinoza grabbed the radio. Here, we're secure. Status on Harper? She's fine. Grant's KIA. Ford and I are mobile. A pause. I'm sorry about Grant. Yeah, me too. Espinoza glanced at Emily. What the hell happened, Captain? They knew exactly where we were. I know, we've got a leak. No shit. I'm working on it. In the meantime, stay off the grid. I'll contact you in 6 hours. The line went dead. Espinoza set the radio down and leaned back. This is bad. Ford stood by the window, scanning the horizon. We need to assume everyone's compromised. Including Calloway? Including everyone. Emily sat down at the table. What about the patient, the contractor I saved? Is he still alive? Ford and Espinoza exchanged a look. What? Emily asked. He's stable, Ford said, but he's not talking. What do you mean? I mean, whoever he is, whatever he knows, he's not sharing, and until he does, we're flying blind. Emily stared at him. So I risk my life for nothing. You saved his life. That's not nothing. It is if it gets me killed. Ford didn't have an answer for that. Emily stood and walked to the window, staring out at the empty fields. Somewhere out there, people were hunting her. People she didn't know. People she'd never met. And all because she'd done her job. She pulled out her phone. Still no signal. She stared at the screen, at the missed calls from her sister, at the life she'd been living just 2 days ago. It felt like a lifetime. Behind her, Espinoza's breathing had evened out. He was asleep, head tilted back, bandage already soaking through. Ford stood by the door, weapon in hand, eyes on the horizon. Emily sat back down and closed her eyes. This time, sleep came. She woke to voices. Emily sat up, disoriented. The room was brighter now, midday sun streaming through the windows. Espinoza was still asleep. Ford was gone. And someone was talking outside. Emily moved to the window, peering through the blinds. Ford stood in the gravel driveway, facing 2 men in suits. One of them was holding a tablet. The other had his hands in his pockets. Emily's stomach dropped. One of the men was Marcus Hale. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but Ford's body language was tense, defensive. Hale gestured with the tablet, pointing at something on the screen. Ford shook his head. The conversation lasted another minute. Then Hale handed Ford a card, said something Emily couldn't make out, and walked back to a black SUV parked at the edge of the property. Ford watched them drive away. Then he turned and walked back inside. Emily was waiting. What the hell was that? Ford set the card on the table. Hale made an offer. What kind of offer? The kind where we hand you over and walk away. Emily's chest tightened. And I told him to go to hell. But? Ford met her eyes. But he's not wrong. We can't protect you forever. Sooner or later, someone's going to get through. So what? I just give up? I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? Ford sighed. I'm saying we need a new plan. Because this, hiding, running, waiting for Calloway to fix it, it's not working. Emily stared at him. What do you suggest? We go on offense. How? We find out who's pulling the strings, and we cut them. Espinoza stirred, blinking awake. What I miss? Ford wants to pick a fight, Emily said. Espinoza sat up, wincing. I'm listening. Ford pulled out his phone and opened a file. I've been digging. The contractor you saved, his name is Daniel Reeves. Former intelligence officer. Went private 5 years ago. Worked for a company called Archway Solutions. Emily frowned. Never heard of them. Most people haven't. They're a front. Shell company for black ops contracts. The kind of work governments don't want their fingerprints on. What does that have to do with me? Reeves was working a job when he got hit, something big, and whatever he found, someone wants it buried. Emily's stomach twisted. What did he find? Ford scrolled through the file. I don't know, but I know who might. He turned the phone around. On the screen was a photo. A woman, mid-50s, tailored suit, cold eyes, Victoria Langford. She's the CEO of Archway, Ford said, and according to Reeves's last communication before he went dark, she's the one who ordered the hit. Emily stared at the photo. Why? Because Reeves found proof she's been selling classified intel to foreign buyers. Billions in contracts, dozens of operatives compromised, and if it goes public, her empire collapses. Espinoza leaned forward. So she's cleaning house. Exactly. Anyone who knows what Reeves knows, or might know, becomes a target. Emily's hands clenched. I don't know anything. She doesn't know that. Silence. Emily looked at the photo again, at the woman who'd sent people to kill her, who'd turned her life upside down. "What do we do?" she asked quietly. Ford's expression hardened. "We bring her down." The plan was simple, too simple. They'd get Reeves to talk, get him to testify, and use his evidence to expose Langford publicly. No back channels, no quiet deals, just the truth, loud enough that no one could bury it. The problem was Reeves. He was still in military custody at the secure facility, still refusing to cooperate, and without his testimony, they had nothing. "I'll talk to him," Emily said. Ford shook his head. "Too dangerous. He knows me. I saved his life. Maybe he'll listen. Or maybe he'll sell you out the second Langford offers him a deal. Then we'll know where he stands." Espinoza looked at Ford. "She's got a point." Ford hesitated, then he nodded. "All right, but I'm coming with you." They left within the hour. Espinoza stayed behind. His wound needed rest. Ford drove. Emily sat in silence, watching the road. The facility was an hour outside the city, unmarked, surrounded by fences and cameras. Ford flashed credentials at the gate. The guard waved them through. Inside, they were met by a lieutenant who led them down a series of hallways to a secured wing. At the end was a single door. 2 guards stood outside. "He's expecting you," the lieutenant said. Ford nodded. "We'll take it from here." The guards opened the door. Inside, Daniel Reeves sat on a hospital bed, bandages wrapped around his torso. He looked up when they entered. His eyes landed on Emily. "You," he said. Emily stepped forward. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got shot." His voice was rough. "You're the one who patched me up." "Yeah." Reeves studied her for a long moment. "Why?" "Because it's my job." "Bullshit. No one does this job just because." Emily didn't respond. Reeves leaned back. "They told me people are trying to kill you." "They are. Because of me." "Yeah." Reeves looked away. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't help me." "I know." He met her eyes again. "What do you want?" "I want you to tell the truth. Whatever you found on Langford, testify. Go public. End this." Reeves laughed bitterly. "You think it's that simple?" "I think it's the only option. And if I do, if I testify, you know what happens to whistleblowers in this world? You'll be alive. That's more than most people get." Reeves stared at her, then at Ford, then back at Emily. "Langford will come after me," he said quietly. "She's already coming after you," Emily said. "At least this way you take her with you." Silence. Reeves closed his eyes. "I found accounts, offshore, dozens of them, payments to foreign operatives, classified intel sold to the highest bidder, and Langford's name on every transaction." Emily's pulse quickened. "You have proof?" "I had proof. Encrypted drives. Hidden in 3 locations. But I don't know if they're still there." Ford stepped forward. "Where?" Reeves hesitated. Then he rattled off 3 addresses, one in Baltimore, one in Richmond, one in a storage facility outside Philadelphia. "If those drives still exist," Reeves said, "they'll bury her." Emily nodded. "Then we get them." Reeves looked at her. "You sure you want to do this? Once you start, there's no going back." Emily met his eyes. "I crossed that line the second I saved you." Ford pulled out his phone. "I'll get Calloway on this. We need teams at all 3 locations simultaneously. If Langford gets wind we're moving, she'll torch everything." Reeves sat forward. "There's something else you should know." Emily and Ford both turned. "Langford doesn't work alone," Reeves said. "She's got people everywhere, law enforcement, military, federal agencies. That's how she's stayed clean this long." "How deep does it go?" Ford asked. "Deep enough that I don't know who to trust anymore." Ford's expression darkened. "Then we keep the circle tight. Calloway, me, Espinoza, Harper. No one else." Reeves nodded. "Good luck. You're going to need it." They left the facility 20 minutes later. The addresses burned into Emily's memory. Ford was already on the phone with Calloway, keeping his voice low. Emily stared out the window, watching the landscape blur past. She'd spent 3 years trying to be invisible, trying to forget, trying to build a life that didn't hurt. And now she was walking straight into the kind of fight that could destroy everything. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel powerless. She felt awake. Ford ended the call. Callaway's mobilizing teams. They'll hit all 3 locations in 4 hours, synchronized. If the drives are there, we'll have them by nightfall. Emily nodded. And Harper? She looked at him. When this is over, Ford said quietly, you're going to have a target on your back for the rest of your life. Emily stared ahead. I know. You okay with that? She thought about Jessica, about Voss, about Crane, about every person who'd ever looked through her like she wasn't worth seeing. Yeah, Emily said. I am. 4 hours felt like 4 years. Emily and Ford returned to the safe house. Espinoza was up, moving better, color returning to his face. They sat around the table in silence, waiting. Emily's phone sat in front of her. No signal, no updates, just the slow tick of the clock on the wall. Finally, Ford's phone rang. He answered, listened. His expression shifted. Yeah, understood. He ended the call and looked at Emily. We got 2 of the drives. Emily's heart jumped. And the third? Ford's jaw tightened. Someone got there first. Location was clean, wiped. How bad is that? Bad. But 2 drives is still enough. Callaway's pulling the data now, says there's enough evidence to bring charges. Espinoza leaned back. So we won. Not yet, Ford said. Langford's still free, and she's got resources. The second she knows we have those drives, she'll move heaven and earth to discredit them. Emily stood. Then we move first. How? We go public, now, before she can spin it. Ford shook his head. We need federal prosecutors. We need to act, Emily cut in. Because every second we wait, she's building her defense. Espinoza looked at Ford. She's right. Ford hesitated. Then he pulled out his phone again. I'll call Callaway. See if we can expedite this. He stepped outside. Emily paced the room, adrenaline buzzing through her veins. This was it. The moment everything either came together or fell apart. Espinoza watched her. You holding up? Ask me tomorrow. Fair. A moment later, Ford came back in. His face was pale. What? Emily asked. Ford set his phone on the table. Langford just held a press conference. Emily's stomach dropped. What? Ford turned on the small TV in the corner, tuned it to a news channel. And there she was, Victoria Langford, standing at a podium, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions. I am deeply troubled by these baseless allegations, Langford said, voice calm and controlled. Daniel Reeves was a valued employee who, tragically, became involved in illegal activities. When confronted, he fabricated evidence in an attempt to discredit this company and avoid prosecution for his crimes. Emily's hands clenched. We have cooperated fully with federal investigators, Langford continued, and we are confident that the truth will prevail. Archway Solutions has served this nation with honor for over a decade, and we will not be intimidated by false accusations. The camera flashed to a reporter. Ms. Langford, what about the encrypted drives reportedly containing evidence of your alleged crimes? Langford didn't miss the beat. Those drives, if they even exist, were likely planted by Mr. Reeves himself as part of his scheme. We have forensic experts standing by to examine any so-called evidence. Another reporter. And what about Emily Harper, the nurse allegedly involved? Emily's blood went cold. Langford's expression shifted, calculated sympathy. Ms. Harper is a troubled individual who was manipulated by Mr. Reeves. We believe she was used as an unwitting pawn. However, her actions, including obstruction of justice and conspiracy, cannot be ignored. Federal warrants have been issued for her arrest. The room spun. Emily stared at the screen as her photo appeared, her name, her face. Wanted. Ford muted the TV. She just flipped the entire narrative. She made me the criminal, Emily whispered. Espinoza stood. We need to move, now. If there are warrants out, every cop in the state will be looking for her, Ford finished. Emily's phone buzzed. She looked down. A text from her sister. What the hell is happening? The news is saying you're wanted. Please tell me this isn't real. Please call me. Emily's throat tightened. Ford grabbed his keys. We need to get you somewhere they won't think to look. But Emily wasn't listening. She was staring at Langford's face on the screen. At the woman who'd systematically destroyed her life in under 72 hours. No, Emily said quietly. Ford stopped. What? I'm not running. Harper, you don't have a choice. I do. Emily turned to face him. She wants to paint me as a criminal? Fine. But I'm not going to hide while she walks free. What are you suggesting? Emily's mind raced. We take the fight to her, publicly, on camera. We show the world exactly who she is before she can bury the truth. Espinoza shook his head. That's suicide. The second you step in front of a camera, you'll be arrested. Then I make sure every word I say gets recorded first. Ford stared at her. You're talking about turning yourself in. I'm talking about telling the truth, loudly, where she can't silence me. Ford's expression shifted. If we do this, we do it smart. We coordinate with someone we trust, someone who can't be bought. Who? Ford pulled out his phone. I know a federal agent, Sarah Ortiz. She's been investigating Archway for months. She's clean, and she'll listen. Emily nodded. Set it up. Ford made the call. When he hung up, he looked at Emily. Tomorrow morning, Federal Building downtown. She'll get you in through a side entrance. You'll give your statement on record. Camera, audio, everything. And then? And then we hope it's enough. That night, Emily didn't sleep. She sat in the dark, staring at her phone, reading the headlines. Her face everywhere, her name trending, people she'd never met calling her a traitor. Her sister had called 6 more times. Emily hadn't answered. What could she say? She thought about her parents. They'd died when she was 23. Car accident. She'd been overseas when it happened. Never got to say goodbye. She wondered what they'd think of her now, if they'd be proud or ashamed. She put the phone down. Outside, Ford and Espinoza took turns on a watch. Inside, Emily sat alone with her thoughts. When dawn finally came, she was ready. They left before sunrise. Ford drove. Calloway met them 2 blocks from the Federal Building, climbing into the back seat beside Emily. You sure about this? He asked. No, Emily said, but I'm doing it anyway. Calloway almost smiled. Ortiz is waiting. She'll get you in clean. But Harper, once you're on record, there's no taking it back. I know. And if Langford's people are watching, they are, Ford said. Then we move fast, Calloway finished. The Federal Building loomed ahead, glass and steel, imposing. Ford pulled into an alley behind the structure, killed the engine. Side entrance, Calloway said. 3rd door. Ortiz will be there. Emily opened the door. Harper, Espinoza said. She looked back. Don't let them make you small, he said quietly. Emily nodded and stepped out. The morning air was cold, sharp. She could see her breath. Calloway led the way. Ford stayed close. They reached the door. Calloway knocked twice. It opened. Agent Sarah Ortiz stood there, early 40s, dark hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Emily. You're Harper? Yeah, Ortiz nodded. Come with me. They moved through hallways, past offices, conference rooms, security checkpoints. Finally, they reached a small interview room. Camera already set up, recorder on the table. Sit, Ortiz said. Emily sat. Ortiz took the seat across from her. I've reviewed what Calloway sent me. It's compelling, but I need your full statement, everything, on record. Emily nodded. Ortiz hit record. The red light blinked. And Emily Harper started talking. She told them everything, the surgery, the crash, the military extraction, the safe house attacks, Voss, Jessica, Crane, the drives, Langford's press conference, every detail. When she finished, Ortiz leaned back. That's one hell of a story. It's the truth. Ortiz studied her. I believe you. But Langford's got an army of lawyers and half the media in her pocket. This is going to get ugly. I know. You prepared for that? Emily met her eyes. I don't have a choice. Ortiz stood. Give me 10 minutes. I need to coordinate with the prosecutors. She left. Emily sat alone in the interview room, staring at the camera, the red light still blinking, recording everything. The door opened. Emily expected Ortiz. Instead, Dr. Philip Crane walked in. He looked smaller than she remembered, thinner. His suit was wrinkled, tie loose, hands cuffed in front of him. 2 agents flanked him. Emily stood. What is he doing here? One of the agents spoke. Dr. Crane was arrested 2 hours ago. Conspiracy, fraud, obstruction. He's agreed to cooperate. Crane wouldn't meet her eyes. Emily stared at him. You sold me out. Crane's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. You don't understand, Langford. She had leverage. My career, my family. She threatened. I don't care, Emily said coldly. Crane finally looked up. His eyes were red. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back the people you hurt. The agent cleared his throat. Dr. Crane has provided a full statement implicating Victoria Langford, Dr. Alan Voss, and several others in a conspiracy to obstruct justice and destroy evidence. Emily's pulse quickened. Voss? In custody as of this morning, also cooperating. Emily sank back into her chair. It was happening. The walls were closing in on Langford. Ortiz returned holding a tablet. We just got confirmation. Federal prosecutors are moving forward. They're preparing indictments now. For who? Langford, Voss, Crane, 4 others connected to Archway, and Harper. Emily's stomach dropped. Your warrant's been rescinded, Ortiz said. You're clear. Emily couldn't breathe. What? Your statement, combined with Crane and Voss's testimony, was enough. The prosecutors reviewed everything. They know you're a victim, not a criminal. Emily's hands shook. Ortiz's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Her expression changed. What? Emily asked. Langford just arrived at her office. Federal agents are moving in now. Ortiz turned on a monitor on the wall. Live news feed. Emily watched as Victoria Langford stepped out of a black town car in front of the Archway Solutions building. Confident. Composed. Surrounded by cameras. And 6 federal agents. The lead agent stepped forward. His voice was clear even through the TV audio. Victoria Langford, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, espionage, and obstruction of justice. Langford's expression cracked. Just for a second. Then fury. This is outrageous, she said. I will not. You have the right to remain silent. Agents moved in, cuffed her. Cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. Langford's lawyers appeared, shouting, trying to intervene, but the agents didn't budge. They walked her out. On camera, for the entire world to see. Emily stared at the screen, chest tight. It was over. Ortiz turned off the monitor. You did it, Harper. Emily couldn't speak. Ford appeared in the doorway. Press is everywhere. We need to get you out before they figure out you're here. Emily nodded, standing on shaky legs. As they walked toward the exit, Ortiz called after her. Harper. Emily stopped. For what it's worth, Ortiz said, I think you just saved a lot of lives. Emily almost smiled. Almost. 3 days later, Emily Harper stood outside St. Aldridge Medical Center. She'd been avoiding it, but there was something she needed to do. She walked through the doors. The lobby went quiet. People stared, whispered. Some looked away. Emily kept walking. She found the administrator's office, knocked. Come in. Emily stepped inside. The administrator, a man named Douglas Fletcher, stood behind his desk. When he saw her, his expression shifted. Surprise. Nervousness. Miss Harper, please, sit. Emily remained standing. Fletcher cleared his throat. I want to start by offering our sincerest apologies. What happened to you, the suspension, the accusations, it was unconscionable. We've conducted a full internal review. Emily said nothing. Dr. Crane has been terminated. Dr. Voss as well. And we would like to offer you your position back, immediately, with full back pay and a formal apology on the record. Emily looked at him. I don't want it. Fletcher blinked. I'm sorry. I don't want my job back. Ms. Harper, I understand you're upset, but we're prepared to offer significant compensation. I'm not upset, Emily said. I'm done. Fletcher opened his mouth, closed it. Emily turned and walked out. In the hallway, she passed nurses she'd worked with, doctors who'd ignored her, people who'd watched her get destroyed and said nothing. None of them spoke. Emily didn't either. She walked straight through the lobby, out the doors, into the sunlight. Her phone buzzed. Calloway. She answered. Yeah? Got a minute? 4? A proposal. Emily stopped walking. What kind of proposal? The kind where you stop wasting your talent in places that don't deserve you. Emily almost smiled. Keep talking. We need people like you, combat-trained medics who can think under pressure, who don't fold when things go sideways. I'm putting together a team, contract basis. You'd work with military medical units, evac missions, triage centers, high risk, high impact. Emily stared at the hospital behind her, at the place that had tried to erase her. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. You'd be respected, valued, and you'd actually save lives instead of dealing with bureaucrats who don't know what they have. Emily was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, When do I start? Calloway's voice warmed. Tomorrow. I'll send you the details. The line went dead. Emily stood there, phone in hand, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. She walked to her car, climbed in, and drove away without looking back. 2 weeks later, Emily sat in a briefing room at an undisclosed military facility. Calloway stood at the front, addressing a group of 6 people: medics, operators, specialists. This is Emily Harper, Calloway said. Former combat medic. Saved 11 lives in a firefight with a collapsed lung. Took down one of the most corrupt defense contractors in the country. And she's joining the team. A few nods, a couple of skeptical looks. Emily didn't care. Calloway continued. We've got a situation developing overseas. Asset extraction. Medical support required. Wheels up in 4 hours. He looked at Emily. You ready? Emily met his eyes. Yeah, she said. I am. 4 hours later, Emily was on a transport plane, flying into another war zone. But this time, she wasn't running from her past. She was writing her future. And nobody was going to make her invisible again. Back in the city, in a maximum security holding facility, Victoria Langford sat in an interrogation room. Lawyers on either side. Federal prosecutors across the table. We have the drives, one prosecutor said. We have Reeves's testimony, we have Crane, we have Voss, and we have Harper's statement. You're done, Ms. Langford. Langford's expression didn't change. I want a deal, she said. The prosecutor almost laughed. You're not in a position to negotiate. Langford leaned forward. I have names, bigger than me. People who make me look like an intern. Give me immunity, and I'll give you everyone. The prosecutors exchanged looks. We'll consider it, one of them said. Langford smiled, because she still had one card left to play. And somewhere, in a locked file buried deep in an offshore server, was evidence that would bring down not just a company, but an entire network. One Emily Harper had just unknowingly stepped into the middle of. The transport plane's engine roar was the only sound Emily heard for the first hour. She sat strapped into a jump seat, surrounded by people she didn't know, flying toward a situation she hadn't been briefed on yet. It should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like coming home. Across from her sat a man in his 30s, muscular, scarred, the kind of face that had seen too much. He'd been watching her since they boarded. You're the one who took down Langford, he said finally. Emily looked up. I didn't take her down. I just stopped running. The man grunted. Same thing. Not really. He extended a hand. Marcus Webb, combat medic. Been doing this for 8 years. Emily shook it. Emily Harper. I know who you are. Webb leaned back. Heard you saved a guy's life with half a field kit and a prayer. There was no praying involved. Webb almost smiled. Even better. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. 20 minutes to drop zone. Gear up. Emily stood checking her kit. Medical supplies, tactical vest, radio. Everything felt familiar in a way that civilian life never had. Calloway appeared beside her. You good? Yeah. We're extracting a compromised asset. Wounded. Hostile territory. Usual mess. Emily nodded. What's the threat level? High, but that's why you're here. The plane banked. Emily grabbed a handhold, steadying herself. Harper, Calloway said quietly. If this gets too heavy, say the word. No one's going to judge you for stepping back. Emily met his eyes. I'm not stepping back. Calloway studied her for a moment. Then he nodded. Good. The drop was clean, fast, controlled chaos. Emily hit the ground running, following Webb and 2 other operators through dense forest. The air was humid, thick with the smell of rain and earth. Somewhere ahead, gunfire echoed. They reached a clearing, a makeshift camp. Bodies on the ground, some moving, some not. Webb pointed. That's our guy, third tent. Emily moved without hesitation, ducked into the tent, found a man in his 40s, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the abdomen, conscious but fading. Hey, she said, dropping her kit. I'm here to get you out. The man's eyes focused on her. About time. Emily cut away his shirt, exposing the wound. Entry wound, no exit, the bullet was still inside. This is going to hurt, she said. Everything hurts. Emily worked fast, packed the wound, started an IV, administered morphine. The man's vitals stabilized, barely. Can you move him? Webb called from outside. Not yet. He needs surgery. We don't have time for surgery. Then make time. Webb swore but didn't argue. Emily kept working. Her hands moved on autopilot. The training, the muscle memory, all of it kicking in. This was what she was built for. Not hospital politics, not paperwork. This. 15 minutes later, the asset was stable enough to move. They loaded him onto a stretcher and started back toward the extraction point. That's when the ambush hit. Gunfire erupted from the tree line. Emily dropped, covering the stretcher with her body. Webb returned fire, shouting coordinates into his radio. We need air support, he yelled. 2 minutes out. The response crackled back. Emily kept her head down, one hand on the asset's pulse. Still there, still fighting. An explosion rocked the ground. Dirt rained down. Emily's ears rang, and then, as fast as it started, the gunfire stopped. Webb stood, scanning the trees. Clear! Move! They ran. The helicopter was waiting when they broke through the tree line. Emily and Webb loaded the stretcher, climbed in, and the bird lifted off. Below them, the forest disappeared into smoke. Emily checked the asset's vitals one more time, stable, alive. She leaned back, exhaling. Webb looked at her. You handled that well. Thanks. Most people freeze their first time back in the field. Emily stared out the window. I've been freezing for 3 years. This is the first time I've felt awake. Webb nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. When they landed, the asset was rushed into surgery. Emily gave her report to Calloway, cleaned her kit, and found a quiet corner to sit. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed adrenaline. She pressed them together, trying to steady them. Calloway appeared with 2 cups of coffee, handed her one. You did good out there. Emily took the cup. Just doing my job. That's more than most people can say. They sat in silence for a while, then Calloway's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression shifted. What? Emily asked. Langford's lawyers just filed a motion. She wants her case dismissed, claims the evidence was obtained illegally. Emily's stomach dropped. Can she do that? She can try. But the prosecutors have Crane, Voss, Reeves. Even if the drives get thrown out, there's enough testimony to bury her. Emily stared into her coffee. She's not going to stop, is she? People like Langford never do. They fight until there's nothing left to fight with. And then what? Calloway looked at her. Then they lose. Back in the city, Victoria Langford sat across from her lead attorney in a conference room that smelled like expensive wood and desperation. The motion won't work, the attorney said. The evidence is solid. The testimony is damning. You're looking at 20 years minimum. Langford's expression didn't change. Then we go to Plan B. Which is? I give them someone bigger. The attorney frowned. Who? Langford pulled out a tablet, opened a file, and slid it across the table. The attorney's face went pale. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. I give them this, and I walk. You'll start a war, Langford smiled. I'll start a reckoning, and when the dust settles, I'll be the only one left standing. The attorney stared at the file, at the names, the transactions, the evidence of corruption that went far beyond Archway Solutions. This implicates senators, cabinet members, military brass. Exactly. They'll kill you before they let this go public. Langford leaned back. Then I'd better move fast. The next morning, Emily woke to her phone buzzing non-stop. She grabbed it, squinting at the screen. 20 missed calls, 50 texts, all from her sister. Emily's chest tightened. She called back. Her sister answered on the first ring. Oh my God, Emily, where have you been? Working. What's wrong? What's wrong? You're all over the news again. Emily sat up. What? Langford, she just released some kind of statement. She's saying you were part of a military conspiracy to frame her, that you fabricated evidence, that's bullshit. I know that, but people are believing her, Em. The comments online, they're tearing you apart. Emily closed her eyes. What did she say exactly? Her sister read from her phone. Emily Harper is a disturbed individual who was manipulated by military operatives to destroy my company. She has no credibility, no integrity, and her so-called heroism is nothing more than a fabricated narrative designed to distract from her own criminal actions. Emily's hands clenched. Em, are you okay? I'm fine. You don't sound fine. I said I'm fine. A pause. What are you going to do? Emily stared at the wall. I'm going to end this. She hung up, threw on clothes, and walked straight to Calloway's office. He was on the phone when she barged in. He took one look at her face and ended the call. You saw the statement, he said. Yeah. We're working on a response. Ortiz is coordinating with, I don't want a response. I want to face her. Calloway blinked. What? Langford, I want to testify. In court, on the record. Let her lawyers come at me. Let her try to discredit me in front of a jury. Harper, that's not how this works. You're a witness, not... Then make me more than a witness. Put me on the stand. Let me tell the truth where she can't spin it. Calloway studied her. You know what you're asking for? Her lawyers will tear into every part of your life. Your deployment, your discharge, your suspension. They'll make you look unstable. Let them try. Calloway leaned back. Why? Because I'm tired of being the variable people try to erase. I'm tired of being dismissed, and I'm tired of letting people like Langford rewrite history because no one stands up to call them liars. Silence. Calloway's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then he looked back at Emily. Ortiz just texted. Langford's trial starts in 3 days. Prosecutors want you on the witness list. Emily met his eyes. Tell them I'm ready. The trial was held in a federal courthouse downtown. Media camped outside. Protesters on both sides. Cameras everywhere. Emily arrived with Ford and Espinoza flanking her. They moved through the crowd, ignoring the shouted questions, and entered the building. Inside, Agent Ortiz was waiting. You sure about this? Yeah, Emily said. Her lawyers are vicious. They're going to come at you hard. I know. Ortiz nodded. Good. Because if you hold your ground, we win this. They entered the courtroom. Emily sat in the gallery, watching as the trial began. Victoria Langford sat at the defense table, perfectly composed, tailored suit, hair immaculate, expression calm. Like none of this touched her. The prosecution laid out their case, the offshore accounts, the classified intel sales, the conspiracy to murder Daniel Reeves. The evidence was overwhelming, and then Langford's lead attorney stood. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he began, voice smooth. You've heard a lot of allegations, a lot of speculation, but what you haven't heard is the truth. My client is a successful businesswoman who built a company from the ground up, a company that has served this nation honorably, and now she's being destroyed by jealous competitors and unstable individuals with personal vendettas. He gestured toward the prosecution. They want you to believe that Victoria Langford is some kind of criminal mastermind. But the evidence, the real evidence, tells a different story. A story of fabricated documents, coerced testimony, and a woman who refused to be silenced. Emily's jaw tightened. The attorney continued, and tomorrow you'll hear from one of these so-called witnesses, a woman named Emily Harper, a former military medic who was dishonorably discharged. Objection, the prosecutor said. Ms. Harper was honorably discharged. The judge nodded. Sustained, the jury will disregard that statement. The attorney smiled. My apologies. Ms. Harper was honorably discharged, but her record shows a pattern of instability, suspensions, accusations of negligence, and a documented inability to follow protocol. This is the person the prosecution wants you to believe over my client. Emily's hands clenched in her lap. Ford leaned over. Don't react. That's what they want. Emily took a breath. I know. The next day, Emily took the stand. The courtroom was packed. Every seat filled. Cameras in the back. Langford watching from the defense table. Expression unreadable. Emily was sworn in, sat down, looked at the jury. The prosecutor stood. Ms. Harper, can you tell the court how you first became involved in this case? Emily took a breath. I was working at St. Aldridge Medical Center when a patient was brought in with severe trauma. I was told he was a contractor. I saved his life. And then people started trying to kill me. Murmurs in the courtroom. The prosecutor nodded. And who was trying to kill you? People working for Victoria Langford. Objection, Langford's attorney said. Speculation. I'll rephrase, the prosecutor said. Ms. Harper, did you have any interaction with individuals who identified themselves as working for Archway Solutions? Yes, multiple times. They followed me, threatened me, attacked a safe house where I was being protected. The prosecutor walked her through the timeline, the extraction, the drives, the ambush, Crane's confession, Voss's arrest. Emily answered every question clearly, calmly, without hesitation, and then it was the defense's turn. Langford's attorney stood, buttoning his jacket. Ms. Harper, you claim you were attacked by people working for my client. Did any of these individuals explicitly say they worked for Victoria Langford? No. So you're assuming. I'm connecting the dots. Connecting dots isn't evidence, Ms. Harper. It's speculation. Emily met his eyes. When someone threatens you, attacks you, and tries to kill you, all because you saved a man who had evidence against their boss, that's not speculation. That's cause and effect. The attorney smiled. You have a history of conflict with authority figures, don't you? Objection, the prosecutor said. Relevance. I'm establishing a pattern of behavior, the attorney said. The judge nodded. I'll allow it. But get to the point. The attorney turned back to Emily. You were suspended from St. Aldridge Medical Center for negligence, weren't you? I was suspended under false pretenses. The charges were later proven to be fabricated. But you were suspended. Yes. And during your military service, you were reprimanded for insubordination, correct? Emily's throat tightened. I questioned an order that would have gotten people killed. I was reprimanded, and then my commanding officer changed the order. So you admit to insubordination. I admit to saving lives. The attorney's smile widened. You have a habit of seeing yourself as a hero, don't you, Ms. Harper? Emily stared at him. I have a habit of doing my job, even when people try to stop me. The attorney paced. You claim my client orchestrated attacks against you, but isn't it possible you're simply paranoid? That your history of conflict, combined with the stress of recent events, has led you to see conspiracies where none exist? Emily's hands gripped the armrests. I'm not paranoid. I'm a threat. To your client. Because I know the truth. And what truth is that? That Victoria Langford sold classified intelligence to foreign operatives. That she ordered the murder of Daniel Reeves. And that when I saved his life, she tried to bury me to cover it up. The attorney stepped closer. You have no proof of any of that. I have testimony. I have evidence. And I have the fact that I'm still alive, which clearly bothers her. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Langford's attorney frowned. No further questions. Emily stepped down, legs shaking. As she passed the defense table, Langford's eyes met hers. And for the first time, Emily saw something crack in that perfect composure. Fear. The trial continued for another week. Crane testified. Voss testified. Reeves testified from a secure location via video link. Each one corroborated Emily's account. And with every piece of testimony, Langford's defense crumbled. On day 9, the prosecution called a surprise witness. Jessica. Emily's breath stopped when she saw her walk in. The blonde nurse who'd held a gun on her in the woods now sat in the witness box, hands folded, face pale. The prosecutor approached. State your name for the record. Jessica Marie Caldwell. And what is your occupation? Jessica's voice was barely audible. I was a nurse at St. Aldridge Medical Center and a contractor for Archway Solutions. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Order! The prosecutor waited for silence. Ms. Caldwell, can you tell the court about your relationship with Victoria Langford? Jessica took a shaky breath. She recruited me 3 years ago. Said Archway needed people on the inside at major hospitals to monitor certain patients, report on their conditions, sometimes interfere. Interfere how? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. Sabotage. If a patient had information Archway wanted buried, we'd make sure they didn't survive long enough to talk. Emily's stomach turned. The prosecutor continued. And did you ever interfere with a patient under Emily Harper's care? Jessica nodded. Dr. Voss tampered with an IV line during a surgery Ms. Harper was assisting. The patient crashed. Langford wanted Harper blamed, wanted her discredited so she'd be easier to eliminate later. Why? Because Langford knew the military was watching Harper, knew she was the best chance of saving Daniel Reeves. So she tried to destroy Harper's credibility before that happened. The prosecutor paused. Why are you testifying today? Jessica looked at Emily. Because I'm tired of being afraid, and because Ms. Harper had the courage to stand up when I didn't. The defense attorney cross-examined, but Jessica didn't waver. She gave names, dates, locations, a full confession. When she stepped down, she walked past Emily and whispered, "I'm sorry." Emily didn't respond. She didn't need to. Finally, the prosecution rested. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. When they returned, the courtroom went silent. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find? Guilty? Langford's face went pale. On the charge of espionage? Guilty. On the charge of fraud? Guilty. The foreman continued through 17 charges. Guilty. 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 Langford sat motionless as the verdicts were read. Her attorneys whispered urgently, but she didn't respond. The judge banged the gavel. Sentencing will be held in 30 days. The defendant will remain in custody without bail. Guards moved in, cuffed Langford, led her out. As she passed Emily in the gallery, their eyes met one last time. Langford's expression was empty, hollow, defeated. Emily didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just watched, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about the truth finally being louder than the lies. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Emily ignored them all, walked straight to the car where Ford and Espinoza were waiting. You good? Ford asked. Emily climbed in. Yeah, I'm good. They drove in silence for a while. Then Espinoza spoke. You know what happens now, right? Emily looked at him. What? You become a story. Every outlet's going to want an interview. Every network's going to want your face. Emily shook her head. I'm not doing interviews. They'll pay. I don't care. Ford glanced at her in the rearview mirror. What do you want to do? Emily stared out the window at the city passing by. I want to disappear. Again. But this time on my terms. 30 days later, Emily sat in the courtroom for the sentencing hearing. Langford was brought in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, no makeup, hair pulled back, all the polish stripped away. She looked smaller than Emily remembered. The judge read through the charges, the evidence, the impact statements. Then he looked at Langford. Do you have anything to say before sentencing? Langford stood. For a moment she said nothing. Then, I built something. From nothing. I created jobs, opportunities. I served this country. Her voice cracked. And I lost sight of what mattered. I let ambition turn into greed, control into corruption, and I hurt people who didn't deserve it. She looked at Emily. I'm sorry for what I did to you, for what I tried to do. You deserved better. Emily's throat tightened, but she didn't look away. Langford sat down. The judge picked up his gavel. Victoria Langford, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole for the first 15 years. Additionally, all assets connected to Archway Solutions will be seized and liquidated. You will pay restitution to the families of those harmed by your actions. The gavel came down. Langford closed her eyes. And just like that, it was over. Emily left the courthouse and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, Emily stood on the tarmac of a private airfield, watching as supplies were loaded onto a cargo plane. Calloway walked over, clipboard in hand. Medical kits, surgical supplies, emergency rations, everything you asked for. Emily nodded. Where am I headed? Central Africa, remote clinic. They've been operating without a permanent medic for 6 months. You'll be the only trained medical professional within 100 miles. Perfect. Calloway studied her. You know you could stay stateside, work in a hospital, teach. Hell, Write a book. You'd make a fortune. Emily almost laughed. I didn't do this for money. Then why'd you do it? Emily looked at him. Because someone had to. Calloway handed her the clipboard. You're a hell of a medic, Harper, and an even better person. Emily took the clipboard. I'm just someone who refused to stay quiet. That's more than most people can say. The plane's engines roared to life. Emily shook Calloway's hand. Thanks for everything. Stay safe out there. You too. Emily climbed aboard, found a seat among the crates, strapped in. As the plane lifted off, she looked out the window at the city shrinking below. Somewhere down there, Langford sat in a cell. Crane had lost his license. Voss was serving 8 years. Jessica was in witness protection, trying to rebuild. And St. Aldridge Medical Center had been gutted. Administration fired, protocols rewritten, the entire culture forced to change. The people who'd tried to erase Emily were gone, and she was flying toward the one thing she'd been searching for all along. Purpose. The clinic was exactly what Calloway had described. Remote, under-resourced, overwhelmed. Emily stepped off the transport truck into chaos. Patients lined up outside. A makeshift tent serving as triage. 2 local nurses doing their best with almost nothing. One of them saw Emily and rushed over. Are you the medic? Yeah. The nurse's face flooded with relief. Thank God. We've got a woman in labor. Complications. We don't have the equipment. Show me. Emily dropped her bag and followed the nurse into the tent. The woman on the cot was young, maybe 19, soaked in sweat, terrified. Emily knelt beside her. Hey, I'm Emily. I'm here to help. The woman gripped her hand, gasping in pain. Emily assessed quickly. Breech birth. No time for transport. She'd have to do this here. I need clean water, towels, and someone to hold her hand. The nurse moved fast. Emily worked. 20 minutes later, a baby's cry filled the tent. The woman collapsed back, sobbing with relief. Emily wrapped the infant, placed him in his mother's arms, and stepped back. Her hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was exhaustion, relief, pride. The nurse touched her shoulder. You just saved 2 lives. Emily looked at the mother and child. That's the job. That night, Emily sat outside the clinic under a sky full of stars. The air was warm, quiet, peaceful. Her phone buzzed, a text from her sister. Saw the sentencing. I'm so proud of you. When are you coming home? Emily stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed, I am home. She hit send, put the phone away, and stared up at the stars. For 3 years, she'd tried to disappear, tried to be small, tried to forget who she was. But invisibility was never the answer. The answer was standing up, speaking out, refusing to let anyone decide her worth. Emily Harper had been dismissed, undermined, attacked, slandered, and she'd survived all of it. Not because she was perfect, not because she was fearless, but because she refused to be silenced. The weeks turned into months. Emily settled into the rhythm of the clinic. Days blurred together, births, injuries, infections, emergencies. She trained the local nurses, taught them procedures they'd never seen, shared knowledge that had been locked away in her head for years. One afternoon, a young girl was brought in. Maybe 7 years old, severe malnutrition, dehydration, barely conscious. Emily worked for hours. IV fluids, electrolyte balance, monitoring vitals every 15 minutes. The girl's mother sat beside the cot, holding her daughter's hand, whispering prayers Emily couldn't understand. But she understood the desperation, the fear, the hope. 3 days later, the girl opened her eyes. Her mother sobbed. Emily stepped back, letting them have their moment. The local nurse, a woman named Amara, who'd become Emily's right hand, stood beside her. You did it again, Amara said. Emily shook her head. We did it. Amara smiled. You're a good teacher. You're a good student. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the mother and daughter. Then Amara asked, Why did you come here, to this place? Emily considered the question, because I needed to remember why I became a medic in the first place. And did you? Emily looked at the girl, now smiling weakly at her mother. Yeah, she said quietly, I did. 6 months into her deployment, Emily received a package. She opened it to find a medal, A commendation from the Department of Defense. Recognition for her role in exposing archway solutions and preventing further intelligence breaches. There was a note attached. Your service continues to save lives. We are grateful for your courage and integrity. Should you ever wish to return stateside, there will always be a place for you. Captain Reed Calloway. Emily stared at the medal for a long moment. Then she tucked it into a drawer and went back to work. Because medals didn't define her. Her actions did. And every life she saved was proof that she'd made the right choice. One evening, Emily sat with Amara outside the clinic, watching the sun set over the savannah. Do you miss it? Amara asked. Your country? Emily thought about it. I miss my sister, my friends. But this, she gestured to the clinic, the land, the sky. This feels more like home than anywhere I've been in years. Because you're needed here. Because I'm useful here. There's a difference. Amara tilted her head. What difference? Emily chose her words carefully. Being needed means people depend on you. Being useful means you're making a real impact. One can be a burden. The other is a gift. Amara nodded slowly. You were needed in America, but you came here to be useful. Something like that. They sat in silence as the sky turned orange, then purple, then dark. Months later, Emily was treating a patient when Amara rushed in. Emily, come quick. There's someone here to see you. Emily looked up, confused. Who? A woman from America. She says she knows you. Emily's heart stuttered. She washed her hands, pulled off her gloves, and stepped outside. Standing beside a dusty Jeep was her sister. Emily froze. Her sister saw her and burst into tears, ran forward, threw her arms around Emily. I had to see you, she sobbed. I had to make sure you were okay. Emily held her, throat tight. How did you even find me? I called that captain, Calloway. He helped arrange transport. Emily pulled back, looking at her sister's face. You flew halfway around the world to check on me? You're my sister. Of course I did. Emily almost laughed. I'm fine, I promise. Her sister looked around, at the clinic, the patients, the makeshift structures. This is where you've been? Yeah. It's so basic, bare bones, understaffed? Her sister shook her head. Beautiful, in its own way. Emily looked at the clinic through her sister's eyes, the peeling paint, the patched tent walls, the equipment held together with duct tape and hope. Yeah, Emily said softly. It is. Her sister stayed for 3 days, helped where she could, met the patients, learned their stories. On the last night, they sat outside under the stars. I was so scared for you, her sister said. When everything happened with Langford, the trial, the threats, I thought I was going to lose you. You didn't. I know, but Em, you disappeared. Again. And I didn't know if you were running away or running towards something. Emily looked at her. What do you think? Her sister studied her face. I think you found what you were looking for. Emily nodded. I did. Are you happy? Emily considered the question. Happy felt too simple, too clean. I'm at peace, she said. For the first time in years, I'm at peace. Her sister reached over and squeezed her hand. Then I'm happy for you. The next morning, Emily walked her sister to the Jeep. You could come home, her sister said, just for a visit. See everyone. Let them celebrate you. Emily shook her head. I'm not interested in being celebrated. I'm interested in being useful. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Maybe not, but right now, this is where I need to be. Her sister hugged her one last time. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. Emily's voice cracked. I love you too. And then her sister was gone. Emily stood in the dust, watching the Jeep disappear down the road. Amara appeared beside her. You okay? Emily wiped her eyes. Yeah, I'm okay. She seems nice. She is. Will you go back someday? Emily looked at the clinic, at the patients waiting, at the work that never stopped. Maybe, she said, but not yet. A year after arriving, Emily was training a new batch of local volunteers when a familiar face appeared. Daniel Reeves. He looked better than the last time she'd seen him. Healthier, stronger, no longer bleeding out on a table. Emily stopped mid-sentence. What are you doing here? Reeves smiled. Came to say thank you. In person. Emily dismissed the volunteers and walked over. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, I did. You saved my life. Twice. Once on that table and once by making sure the truth came out. Emily shrugged. I just did my job. You did a lot more than that. Reeves pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wanted you to have this. Emily unfolded it. A letter. Handwritten. To whom it may concern. Emily Harper is one of the most skilled, dedicated, and courageous medics I have ever encountered. She saved my life under impossible circumstances and never wavered in her commitment to doing what was right, even when it put her own life at risk. If you're reading this, you're in good hands. It was signed by Reeves and co-signed by Calloway, Ortiz, Ford, and Espinoza. Emily's eyes stung. Why? Because someday someone's going to question you again. Someone's going to doubt you. And when that happens, you can show them this and remind them exactly who you are. Emily folded the letter carefully. Thank you. Reeves nodded. No, thank you. He left an hour later, but the letter stayed with Emily. She tucked it into the same drawer as the medal, proof that she wasn't invisible, proof that she mattered. 2 years into her work at the clinic, Emily received word that the facility was being expanded. Funding had come through, anonymous donors, international aid organizations, governments, new buildings, more equipment, additional staff. Amara was promoted to lead nurse. Emily became medical director. They trained dozens of local medics, built a sustainable system, created something that would last long after Emily eventually left. One evening, sitting in her small office, Emily received an email from St. Aldridge Medical Center. The new hospital administrator wanted to extend a formal apology, invite her to speak at their reformed ethics training program, offer her a consulting position. Emily read the email twice. Then she deleted it. She had no interest in going back. That chapter was closed. 3 years after leaving America, Emily stood in front of the newly expanded clinic. Solar panels on the roof, clean water system installed, pharmacy stocked, operating room fully equipped. It was unrecognizable from the place she'd arrived at. Amara stood beside her. We did this. Emily smiled. You did this. I just helped. Don't do that. Don't minimize what you built here. Emily looked at her. I didn't build it alone. No. But you started it. You believed it was possible when no one else did. A young medic, one of the first Emily had trained, ran over. Dr. Harper, we have a patient. Difficult presentation. We need you. Emily grabbed her kit. Let's go. As she walked into the clinic, she realized something. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't trying to be invisible. She was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. And for the first time in her entire life, that was enough. Years later, when people asked Emily Harper about the trial, about Langford, about everything that had happened, she would give them the same answer. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who refused to disappear when people wanted me to. And that made all the difference. Because the truth was simple. You can't erase someone who refuses to be erased. You can't silence someone who knows their voice matters. And you can't destroy someone who's already survived the worst and decided to build something better. Emily Harper had been dismissed, attacked, slandered, and hunted. But she'd also stood up, fought back, told the truth, and survived. Not because she was perfect, not because she was fearless, but because she understood something fundamental. Your worth isn't determined by who recognizes it. It's determined by what you do when no one's watching. And Emily had chosen to save lives, to speak truth, to stand firm, to refuse the narrative others tried to write for her. And in doing so, she'd written her own story, one that couldn't be erased, one that couldn't be silenced, one that proved that the quietest voices can be the strongest if they choose to speak. And Emily Harper had chosen to speak, not with words, but with action. And that was the most powerful language of all.